Well, hello everyone. Um, Today's Tuesday, and I continue to struggle a little bit. I think I underestimated everything. The last few days have continued to be a bit rough, and I keep trying to figure out how to do this, how to find that balance, because I don't want this to become a oh, woe's me, pity party. I'm having a difficult time because that's not what we're trying to do here. But I guess, I'm struggling to find a balance between showing sort of the ups and downs of a process like this, a process that is so difficult in such a life-changing situation like losing this much weight, but also there are going to be a lot of days where we feel like shit, and I keep and I'm sorry, I'm extremely distracted. I've been trying to do this for a few minutes now, and I sit in front of here, and I'm a bit of at a loss for words because I don't really know what to say and how to approach this. Because, like I've been trying to say, I don't want this to become this sort of like negative thing. But I also don't want to pretend like I'm doing better than I am. And so I keep trying to figure out what the balance is between, doing, between, I see, this is what I mean. This that you're seeing, all this hesitation, all this stuff, is exactly how my head has been for the last few days. In regards to this, there are multiple things going on, but in regard to this, I don't know what to do because I had fallen into a very easy process. I sort of like already felt like I had a system, and I was very much flowing through that system back in the U.S., where I had my spot in the kitchen and the camera and like all of these things that usually have to happen for one of these videos to come together. And I created that in a way that there was as little friction as possible. Is that right? Yeah. There was basically no friction. I had a system and all that. And I got here and there was friction everywhere. And I don't even know, like, I certainly didn't anticipate it. I underestimated how much friction there would be. And it has taken a lot to try to overcome that friction, and this is just like one of those reminders of how ingrained our comfort zone is into us. And the moment we step outside of that, the moment we step outside of that bubble, everything is just so much more difficult, and the smallest things can become such huge obstacles, like they have for me the past, week, because it's a little over a week now since I got here, and I haven't been able to film on like in real time, I guess. That's I haven't been able to make these videos in real time. The most that I have been able to do is take pictures of the food that I'm eating and then just come back to it and do this. But other than the actual workout videos, but that is what has been really difficult. I really don't know what happened. I'm usually able to sort of see and be, muster enough self-awareness to figure out what is going on and what's making me feel a certain way and all of that. And I feel like I got the wind knocked out of me from the moment I got here. Everything felt wrong and continues to feel wrong. And I'm just now starting to be able to see what makes it feel wrong, I guess, because it's very subjective. There's no objectivity here. Everything just feels wrong. Well, what feels wrong? I have no idea. Things just feel off. I feel off. I feel very depressed, and I'm having a difficult time overcoming that. And so where I had fallen into a rhythm and a routine back in the States where, I'm waking up and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and then, I'm turning on the camera and all of that stuff. I don't have that right now. Like, I really don't have that. And it's really throwing me off. I'm feeling a lot of friction. And it's, it's as simple as, well, just do the same thing that you were doing there. And technically, yes. And if you have gone through something like this, you'll understand what I'm about to say. All the pieces are there. Technically, I can do this. No problem. But emotionally, it's almost like I have something inside of me keeping me from doing the thing, even though it's right there and it's very easy to do and I know how to do it. There's some emotional hurdle that seems insurmountable. Insurmountable. I don't know. You know what I mean. In this moment, that's what it feels like. And so it has taken a lot for me to be able to keep going these days. And I'm trying to figure out exactly where things went wrong. So the first thing that I could figure out was that I underestimated the system that I had prepared for myself as far as food prep and the foods that I was eating at home, or I guess in the States. I remember at the beginning of this, during the first few videos, when people were still getting acquainted with me and the reason why I'm doing this and all that. And I remember people were giving me a lot of shit about, oh, you're eating too many powders, you're eating, all of these processed things, they're not good for you, blah, 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 this and that. And I remember thinking, or not thinking, but I was very clear from the beginning, not with everyone else, but with myself, that I needed a certain setup in order to give myself the chance to succeed. And that meant figuring that part out. And so I had all my different powders from Huel and the different foods and like supplements and stuff like that, that it would allow me to create nutritious meals almost without having to think. And so, when all else fails, then I'll just grab, I'll just make a shake. Like, I had enough raw materials to work with at home. I had enough stuff just sort of laying around that I'll do a little bit of this, and I'll do a little bit of that, and I'll do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and, and I had all my things, and so there was never really a moment of doubt. Yes, there were difficulties in trying to overcome the day-to-day, the cravings, the mental aspect of this, and you guys, know. I mean, if you've been watching the videos, you know exactly what that has been like. And we've had very difficult days, yes, but there wasn't really a sense of not knowing what to do, a sense of uncertainty or ambiguity. The things were there. You can eat this. You can make a shake. You can make like a little curry from Huel, and we started adding some things. And so we cooked the chicken, and we started adding stuff, and like there was no uncertainty there. It was plain and simple. This is what we needed to do. And I remember thinking when I was preparing to come here, realizing, well, I'm not going to have access to Huel. I'm not going to have access to a lot of the things that I have here. I'm not going to have access to my kitchen. I'm not going to have access to my gadgets. And yes, I brought a lot of my health stuff over. So I brought my blood pressure monitor with me. I brought the Lumen, and as much as I could, but I wasn't bringing my kitchen with me. And so I underestimated how much I was relying on those things, on those foods, and yes, and even if they were prepackaged foods and they were processed, they were still, sort of like health foods, health supplements. At least the companies making them are trying to go in that direction. And so there was a certain level of security with having all those things lined up that I just didn't have when I got here. And I didn't anticipate or I didn't realize, I guess back then, how much they were keeping me in line. They were keeping me centered. They were keeping me on track. So we've talked about in these videos a lot about the idea of having a robust system to fall back on when the going gets tough. When everything goes wrong and you feel like absolute shit, you have a system that you fall back on. And this was exactly that. Back in the States, I had all of those things, and those things were my system. You guys were my system. Everything that I had created in that bubble to exist for those, first 9 weeks or whatever it was, that was the system. That was my system. And so on the worst days when everything just felt, when everything felt absolutely wrong, I could fall back on that system. I could have access to those things that removed that sense of ambiguity, that sense of uncertainty. It just got rid of all that, and all I had to do was just fucking put your head down and keep going. And then I got here and I didn't have that. And it has fucking destroyed me. It has shaken my confidence so much in my ability to do this. And so, my nutrition hasn't been great. I don't want to say that it's been bad because I haven't gone, like balls to the walls like you guys know we can do. Some of you at least, when we go hard, we go hard. Like, we don't half-ass the shit. And so it hasn't been that, but it hasn't been as mindful as we were being back in the States. And so because we were trying to be as mindful as we could, as healthy as we could back then, that completely went out the window the moment I got here. And yes, I knew from before that I was going to be able to relax a little bit while I got here and I got settled. And I remember consciously thinking, it's going to take a couple of days for you to find your rhythm and blah, 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 this and that. And so we were expecting that. We were preparing for that. But I really didn't anticipate how difficult it was going to be because I was relying on that system so heavily, and that system completely went out the window. And in the moment that system went out the window, I enter panic mode. And for me, that panic of what I'm going to do. So it's almost like at that moment I start grasping at straws. I'm trying to figure out where's my lifeline? What's going to pull me out of this? Because I feel like I'm sinking into the abyss fast. And the hopelessness is closing in. It's like everything is dark. And so I tried to start looking for how many of those things that were part of my system, that were removing ambiguity, that were giving me a sense of security and certainty, how many of those things can I replace here? And so I start looking, and the first thing that I decided to look for was MCT powder, the medium chain triglyceride, that powder from coconut. And it's just not a thing that is, at least I haven't been able to find it here in Argentina. If there's anyone from here that can, by any chance is watching this and has any experience, please do share with us. But I couldn't easily find MCT oil powder online or any of the supplement stores. I found the very same jar that I use in the US that I buy from Amazon. There's basically an Amazon version of, or like an Argentinian Amazon. It's called Mercado Libre, and it's basically the same concept. But in there, the jar that we paid like, I don't know, 18 bucks, 20 bucks, like maybe $22 in the US for, it was literally like $300 here. And I freaked out. And you know, in those moments when you're like sinking into despair and you're like reaching for something and the first thing that you grab is something like that, it's just you get that sinking feeling of like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. And that is basically how I've been feeling for the last few days. When we first got here, the first, like we arrived on a Wednesday, and I basically gave myself the week to like try to figure this out. But the reality was that I gave myself the week to just like not really be as careful or as mindful with my nutrition. But I also didn't use the week to prepare. So then Monday came around and I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what I was going to eat. And I really don't know why I didn't spend more time trying to prepare. I don't know why that was, but I didn't spend the time trying to prepare. And then Monday comes around and I'm not prepared and I freak out again. Oh my God, we're supposed to do this. And so slowly it started falling into the abyss again. Just, falling into the abyss, sinking, that sinking feeling, and knowing that you have things that you need to do, but the desolation, the desperation, the sadness is so overwhelming, just becomes so overwhelming that even the simplest things become extremely difficult to do, including making some of these videos. And so for yesterday's video, that was Monday. I'm not recording this on a Tuesday, by the way. But for yesterday's video, for Monday, the fact that we have a commitment, a standing commitment that we're going to work out Mondays and Fridays really helps. And I was able to bring myself to do that. There was a very clear commitment there. But everything else was very fudgeable. You can fudge with it a little bit. This time traveling that I'm always talking about. And so the most that I could do was take pictures of the food that I was eating and, trying to do my best, and then figured at some point I'll get back to doing this. But it has been extremely difficult. So like I was saying at the beginning of the video, I'm having a difficult time trying to figure out how to do this without it becoming annoying. And I don't know if I'm maybe judging myself too harshly, because on the one hand, I want to be truthful and I want to be transparent and honest about how I'm feeling. And all of these things are very difficult to do. But then at the same time, I don't know at what point posting video after video, like, oh, I feel so sad, oh, I'm so depressed. At what point that becomes annoying. And I'm sure that you guys have probably felt that way in general yourselves, in feeling like I don't want to burden other people with my sadness or my depression, and you kind of try to put on a face. Or been on the other side with like trying to coexist with someone who's having that much of a difficult time. And some of you guys probably have a more caretaking nature and are able to withstand those things better. And some of us don't really have that, where even though sometimes we happen to be in a place like this for an extended period of time, we might not have enough patience or have the emotional bandwidth to accommodate someone feeling that way. So, I've been struggling to figure out that. I've been struggling to figure out that balance. And so this is why I basically didn't film those videos, especially those days. Today is Thursday, so Monday, I wasn't feeling great, but Tuesday and Wednesday, so today and tomorrow, the videos for today and tomorrow, if I had filmed them on the day, would have been very difficult because I was in the darkest place that I've been in a long time. And I do mean in a long time. I haven't been in such a dark place in probably a couple of years. And so, yeah, that was basically it. So I'm finally now, I woke up feeling, well, I did a couple of things. So I did something, because, I also want to talk about how I started to come out of it a little bit. So let's go over what I ate for Tuesday, for today's video, a little bit, and then we will, for tomorrow's video, tell you a little bit of what I did to try to help myself, and hopefully that'll, resonate with someone. So for Tuesday, this is what I had for breakfast. And the reason I'm having this is because this is basically the default that my girlfriend makes for breakfast. This is usually her breakfast. Some kind of egg with an arepa. And arepa is that sort of like grilled corn cake that is very traditional in Colombian and Venezuelan food. And so, again, I was, at the beginning of this, I was waking up and I was making my shakes. And then when I got a little tired of the shakes, I basically just started having a coffee and calling it a day. Now, she is a breakfast person. She needs to have breakfast. And so she could see how terrible I was feeling, and she was gracious enough to take over cooking. And, I wasn't going to fight it. Also, in terms of nutrition, this isn't so bad. Yes, the arepa is carbs, but usually I have a certain amount of carbs every day that I'm allowed to have, or that I should be having. And this isn't as terrible. And so as far as nutrition, this was okay. And so this was basically the breakfast by default, but, pretty good. 3 eggs and an arepa, and then I just had soda. I haven't been having coffee because, again, I'm trying to cut out that sugar. And so, and I really can't have coffee without sugar. She looks at me weird because she's a true Colombian. She has coffee without sugar. But I can't. Still can't do it. So this was breakfast, and then again, we didn't really know what to make, and she was, she had been sort of like cooking for herself, and like she doesn't really have many issues with her nutrition or diet or anything like that, and so things are very easy for her. But she was trying to be accommodating for me, and she knew that I was coming with this sort of like more regimented approach and all of those things, and so she was sort of expecting me to like, okay, come and show her what the plan was. And here I was like, I don't know what to do because I don't have any of my things. I don't know what to make. I have to go out and buy stuff. But again, it's not as easy, and I've just became a mess. So what we ended up doing was, for lunch, for Tuesday, for today's video, something that's very popular here in Buenos Aires is all around the city, there are these places that they call comida por peso, like food by weight. And it's basically like, the closest thing is like, if you guys have ever been to like an all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet, it's sort of that. Maybe not to depending on the place, there are some really big ones, some really small ones, but there are some of them all over the city. Like all over the city, you can find these places. And basically, it is what it is. But you grab a little container and you serve yourself whatever you want from their buffet, and then they weigh it at the end, and that's what you get. And so some of them are better than other ones. Some of them, the quality of the food is better, and there are more options and healthier options. And so last year, we used to, when we lived here last year, we basically went to one that was one of the best ones that I found in the city, that had a very, very large variety of foods. And it seemed to be, there were a lot of healthier options and all that stuff. And I haven't been able to find another one, but it's a little bit further out. I haven't been able to find another one as good as that one. And it's a little bit far out from where we live this year. And so, it's not as feasible to just like go over there and have to come back. We'd have to like either get a cab or like take public transportation. It's just more than, but then more involved than we wanted to be, especially feeling as overwhelmed as we were. So we went to one that it's around here, not as good, not as there aren't as many different types of foods, and it wasn't great, but it was decent enough. And so I basically ended up getting a bunch of little things. I got some grilled chicken, as you can see here, some shredded carrots, a little bit of like rice with some like ham and peas and stuff. I thought this was chicken, but it turned out to be this little like fried thing. It's like fried fish. And then there was like a chicken stew underneath. And so like when I started eating and kind of put it all together, it was a fair amount of protein. There was also a fair amount of carbs from the fried fish and the rice, but there was like underneath that, it was like a chicken stew with vegetables and stuff. And so it was varied, and it wasn't a ridiculously large portion. It was normal. So again, like that was trying to limit myself to like only chicken and vegetables was definitely too much for me. I would have been too overwhelmed. And so I basically allowed myself to have extra carbs so that it could help my mood because I was in such a shitty place. So that's basically what we had for lunch on Tuesday. And then for dinner, again, dinner comes around and I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to have. And so, just, again, I was feeling really overwhelmed. I was feeling really depressed. And she mentioned, we have some leftover pasta that I made a couple of days ago. And, she said, it's more pasta than the meat stew, the beef stew that I had. But, you could have that, and that's still, she was trying to keep me sane, I guess, to try to keep me a little more grounded. And so she said, I'll make you that. I'll heat this up. And so this is what I had, which is basically pasta, a little bit more pasta than when we ate it a couple of days ago, I think what it was, where it was mostly the beef stew with a little bit of pasta. This was more even, I guess. And so there was a larger amount of pasta, but that's basically what I ended up having. So that was Tuesday. It was a really bad day, and I'm glad that I'm able to share with you guys, but it can get really tricky. It can be really difficult, and so that has been my experience. So hopefully some of this can help you, feel like you're not alone if you're going through something like this, because I think we all go through this, and it's about finding a way to come back and try to keep going in some way, in some measure. So thank you guys for hanging with me today. Let's see, because tomorrow was, it feels real weird to talk about. Tomorrow was a really difficult day. Wednesday was also a very difficult day, which is tomorrow for you guys, yesterday for me. And so we'll talk about it a little bit, but for now, that is it. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you tomorrow.